Hello everyone. Sorry for the delay. I had to spend forever getting all of my stuff set up because this is gonna be kind of an informative stream. We're gonna be doing some information type stuff. How crazy is that? Hello. How are we all doing? Oh my gosh. Wait, my camera. This happens every time, and I'm shocked by it every time. I truly don't know what it is about the camera that makes it not want to participate in the streams, but I swear maybe it's just that like I haven't updated stream elements in about like 3 years. Because every time I do, it breaks my stream for about 3 years. But hello, welcome in everyone. Alidile, hi, thank you for the sub. Same with the Mana Stone and Mr. Max Taylor's version. Oh my God, you guys, hello, welcome in. Hold on, I gotta go live on Instagram as well. Give me a quick sec to tell people that we're doing a TTRPG information share, like advice stream. Let me see, TTRPG advice stream sponsored by Roll and Play Press, which I also have to disclose, so it takes me like a quick sec. Oh, it doesn't work. Okay. Well, cool. That's fine. It's okay. Update details. Perfect. Amazing. Amazing. Hi, Alidile. Nazir says, can you automate the elements during the restart? Dude, I swear, every time I restart my computer, I keep hoping that it's, like, gonna just magically make everything work. And it's crazy how that doesn't actually function like that at all. Hello to TikTok, hello to Instagram, hello to YouTube. How are you guys? How is everything going? Welcome in. We are doing a bit of a special stream today. Saeed over on YouTube says, is that Roll and Play Press on your screen? Yeah, so today's stream is sponsored, which is rare. Honestly, we don't have a lot of sponsored streams around here, purely because it's very difficult to do sponsored streams, because 90% of the time people come up to me and they're like, hey, can you play my game on stream? And I just don't have the capacity to do that usually. But this time, we are sponsored by our lovely friends at Roll and Play Press to talk about, you know, at least partially, it doesn't have to be the entirety of stream, but to talk a little bit about No Place Like Homebrew, which I did a video on earlier today. It's a brand new book from the same people who did One Shot Wonders, which Words Cannot Express, you guys. They're not paying me to talk about One Shot Wonders. I love One Shot Wonders so much that, like, they didn't... The first time I talked about it, they didn't have to pay me because I was just like, this is just such a great book. And No Place Like Homebrew is right on its heels as something that I really think everyone should have, but we'll get into that in a sec. If you guys want more information on that, !homebrew in the chat will bring you to a command. And that actually gets you 10% off of it as well, which is really nice of them. So not only are they sponsoring the stream, but they're giving you guys 10% off, which is quite nice. Crayhack says, is your left shoulder much warmer? Wait, why? Did something happen to my left shoulder? Oh no. Conmax says, have you played Daggerheart? I have. I'm actually doing a Daggerheart, not an actual play, but more like a one-shot here soon. Not a one-shot, sorry. A home game here soon. And I actually did a whole video on YouTube for members who were, you know, I was talking about how I created that character and like showing off the art for her and things like that. It's really cool. I'm really excited for it. Daggerheart, I will say it's quite nice, but I need to see it in more of a campaign setting before I decide whether or not it's something that I feel like is viable for a long-term thing. I'm still a D&D girly. So Hack says, no, because you were one-shouldering your cardigan. Was I? Oh, shit. No, I don't know. It's just, I'm probably gonna get incredibly warm throughout the course of the stream. It's mostly because my PC is right here, and it gets to insanely hot temperatures while I'm streaming. Binary Dragon, hi Paris, saying what up chat, how goes everyone's dice? I hope your guys' dice are doing well. And Yvette says, wasn't the Saturday stream Daggerheart? It was. So as of right now, all of my experience with Daggerheart so far has been, hello everyone on Instagram, it's just been one-shots. I haven't been doing fully like full campaigns yet. I have a little bit of curiosity about how the different classes actually scale. I also want to see a little bit more content before kind of launching into it. Like the Void stuff is really cool. I like that they've released that for free. Hey, Kevin saying Daggerheart is fantastic. Yeah, and Paris says it's a PC and space heater. Exactly. Also, I need to move this a little bit because you guys can't quite. Can you see it a little bit? Hold on. Nah, it's better back there. There we go. Welcome to the TTRPG info stream. I only got the whiteboard in case I need to make a diagram. Please don't make me make a diagram. Also, Maddie, hi, saying hi, Diana. As always, hope you have a good day today. I'm doing good. And Viper says custom-built PCs are just space heaters we can game on. Exactly. It's multi-use. It's actually really not that bad. It's just like streaming to 5 places at once is a little bit tough. Joshua says, what's your live about? So today's stream is all about tabletop gaming of all varieties. Doesn't have to be D&D. It can be, I often get people asking questions throughout the course of like gaming streams and things like that, asking like, you know, how they can best optimize their character, or they're having trouble with like a plot point. They're wondering how they can like, they're wondering how they can like homebrew things, or like slightly modify an existing campaign to suit their needs, or they're worried about like safety tools. I get a lot of questions like that. And I figured today would be a fantastic time to just kind of go through and answer all of your guys' questions as you throw them in chat. Let's see, Emu says we can see it just fine. Okay, hell yeah, perfect. And then real fast, just get the spiel kind of out there. For those who are watching on mobile platforms, you might notice a bit of a different background. For those watching everywhere else, you're going to see Roll and Play Press's logo everywhere. That's because they've been generous enough to sponsor this stream as part of the launch of No Place Like Homebrew, which, if you guys don't know, if you haven't seen my video on it today, definitely go watch it. It explains it with like actual overlays and everything like that. But No Place Like Homebrew is essentially a book that is, first of all, like supplement size. It's not just like a pamphlet. I see a lot of pamphlets floating around the space for things like homebrew content. This is an actual proper like massive compendium of homebrew content that you can slide into D&D, you can slide it into Pathfinder. A lot of the stat blocks are optimized for D&D, but everything else is system agnostic. And it's stuff like, for example, locations, or planes of existence, or shops, or NPCs, you know, sometimes plot points, sometimes rumors that float around a certain area. It's all color-coded, it's all incredibly easy to read, it's all indexed properly, and it's something that I really emphasize is really good for just having on hand, especially when your PCs do that thing where they're like, hey, I want to have a spontaneous like 3-hour shopping episode. And meanwhile, you're sitting sweating in a corner because you haven't built out the village that they just happen to be passing through yet, right? Or they go up to you and they're like, hey, what's this NPC's name? And you're like, anything that's not using, as long as you're not going in and like either throwing together Goblin McGoblin face or using AI or anything like that, that sort of stuff is like, as long as you're not doing that, it's okay in my book. And this book in particular is perfect in my book, speaking of books, because it does just like exactly that. It actually teaches you like how to drag and drop basically anything from the book into your game without actually having to do the work yourself, which is my biggest gripe with like, you know, D&D supplements and homebrew content is a lot of times it's like, oh, like here's a 2-sentence idea, and then you have to actually come up with everything else to do with that idea yourself. You know, they give you an NPC, but they don't give you like a description of the NPC or anything to do with the NPC's backstory. They're just like, oh yeah, you know, this is the NPC's name and here's where they work. And it's like, come on, you know we're gonna need more than that. So that's where No Place Like Homebrew comes in. It's available for basically 10% off right now, using the link in my bio or the link in chat if you're watching on Twitch right now, over on Roll and Play Press's website. While you're there, check out everything else they've done. They've done amazing work. Like everything that comes out of their library, out of their publishing arm is my favorite thing ever. And they're also just a wonderful team, you know? If you see them at like Gen Con or anything like that, please swing up and say hi. Yeah, definitely check out the book. If you buy the physical version as well, you also get a PDF, so you don't have to choose, which I think is like amazing because I work off of both. So that's my spiel. We'll talk about them a little bit more later, but in general, Paris says say nothing bad about Goblin McGoblin face. He's just doing his best. Did you guys hear that they are doing, what is it? God, was it an aquarium or something like that? That was gonna name a shark? I want to say, no, it was something else. Some big national thing was gonna name something, and they explicitly called out the fact that they're not accepting blank McBlankface names because of Bodie McBoatface. If you guys don't remember that. Also, Nostr says, hey, YouTube is old enough to drink in the USA now. Really? YouTube is 21 years old now? That's wild. Happy birthday, YouTube. Oh my gosh, Ripper Dog says I also love the NPC cards they provide as well. I think that's the only thing from their collection I don't have. I have the map folio, which is ginormous. By the way, I have both copies of One Shot Wonders, I'm pretty sure, and then, of course, No Place Like Homebrew. Dude, also, they haven't told me to talk about this. There's some art in here, which you guys, if you're watching on the mobile platforms, will be able to see it fling by every now and then. But there's art in here that's made by Toby Fox, which is insane. I'm pretty sure it's the Toby Fox. I haven't confirmed. I just saw the name as I was editing, and I was like, oh my god, like, I'm pretty sure this is him. This, like, harpy. Absolutely insane. So it's all real art, real artists. Let's see, Firebird says Bodie McBoatface is my favorite boat. Oh my god. Charlie Bear says, hey, I was wondering if you had any advice for keeping, rewarding your players without giving them just OP magic items, or on the opposite end of the spectrum, just gems and gold. Oh yeah, okay, so, I mean, here's the thing about magic items is inherently they're not that great to use when it comes to D&D modules because Oh my gosh, FZP the Legend. Hi, hello. I'll get to your question in a sec, because that's a really good question. I just saw it out of the corner of my eye. Paris says give inspiration. I actually kind of hate inspiration as written because there's so many other things that give you advantage rules as written in the game that I don't think inspiration, as far as like giving someone advantage or disadvantage, is all that great. Also, it's not that great as a quest reward. One thing I'll just say as a point of note when it comes to quest rewards is that as written in any given module, you're almost always gonna wanna go through the entire module, take a look at all the magic items that are there, and then like just toss them in the goddamn trash, and then replace them with magic items that your party's actually gonna use. Cause I can't tell you how many times that I've come across like a module that's like, oh, you get this +2 holy symbol as a quest reward. And it's like, great, we haven't had a cleric in this party for like 3 campaigns now. No one likes being a cleric. I'm not gonna use that. So you need to go through and at least like vet all the magic items that you are giving to your party before you get into the campaign or before you get to that point in the campaign. That being said, one thing that you can do that's not like a physical item and that's not just like giving them a ton of gold. First of all, gold's only gonna be useful so far as they have a place to put it. That's where the new 2024 version of D&D gets really good about like bastions and things like that, because it gives them a chance to put their money into something that will actually like grow with them. Same with pets. Dude, give your party the chance to buy pets, dude. Oh my god. So like gold is more helpful the more that they have a chance to use it. That's not just like hunting around in various shops. That being said, the other thing you can do is you can give them almost like, not like feats, but you can give them like boons of a certain variety. Boons and magic boons, deity boons, anything like that. They're not super well talked about in D&D, but I recommend you look them up. Essentially, if they're a pious character, if your god sees that you're doing a lot for them, they might give you like, a once a day use of summon steed or find steed when you wouldn't normally have it. Things like that, which are not necessarily OP because they're pretty limited to like once or twice a day, but also, it's something that is still in line with your character's progression and makes sense for your player character's like motivations, right? And that's the other piece of it, is you need to know what your PC wants. If your PC is like, hey, I have no material goals, I'm actually just gonna like, all I want to do is get revenge on the people who hunted down my family when I was a kid and made me an orphan. It's okay, rogues, it's fine. It happens to the best of us. We all make a character like that every once in a while. Then gold and items and things like that aren't necessarily going to be helpful, but what you can do is you can gain, for example, alliances and faction favor that might get you closer to that goal in the end, again, without making you super overpowered and throwing magic items after magic item at you. Because I've been on that side of a quest before, or a quest line, or a story where it's just like, oh my god, I've been given 17 billion magic items, and I have exactly 4 attunement slots. What the hell am I gonna do with these? So definitely ease up on the magic items. Make sure the ones you are giving are useful, and then also make sure that everything else you're giving has a purpose in either the player character's just general motivations or the party's motivations as a whole, right? Yeah, Paris says, or reputation with a local faction leading to discounts at local shops. That also works. Hell yeah. Like, dude, also break everything down into factions as best you can. Oh my god, your party should have, where's my pen? Your party should have favor, and you should be keeping track of this. They should not know how this works. But your party should have favor on a scale of like positive to negative with basically every single faction that they ever touch. And this is something that, again, it could be just like a really simple, like, 10 to -10 scale where they start off in the middle as soon as they meet a faction. It could be anything. It could be the local, like, Baker's Guild, right? So let's say they go Baker's Guild. They go to a local bakery. They do exactly 1 job for a local baker. They get +1 reputation point, and they sit right around here. That is going to extend for the entire region. And they should start to get, like, not even necessarily discounts, but they might get more and more quests from local bakers or friends of those bakers, things like that. It's a network-based system, and your party should know, at least you should know, where your party sits on that scale of positive to negative reputation with every single faction that they come across. Also, you need to consider the fact that, and this is kind of a tangent about factions, because I hate factions, so I've, like, made this into such a rules-based thing purely because I hate dealing with them, and I want to make it as, like, as binary as possible, essentially. I make it so that no matter what you do, if you have positive favor with a certain faction, there's always a chance that a different faction with like negative opposite goals is gonna have negative favor in the background. So let's say that you help out the Brewers Guild, but the Bakers Guild, but then the Brewers Guild down here, let's put Brewers. The Brewers Guild down here, that is, there's so much glare, hold on. The Brewers Guild down here. Let's say that all of a sudden the consumption of wheat is getting like absolutely insane, and the fact that the bakers now have more, I don't know, they basically curbed the market, cornered the market as a result of your party's actions in helping out the Bakers Guild in their quests, has now, by default, in the background, made it so that your point of like favor goes down by 1, even if they've never talked to the Brewers Guild before, because the Brewers Guild is gonna know who's behind it. Yan says, would you be so kind as to talk about your disdain for factions? I personally hate world building factions so much, because to me it's just like building, and this is my thing, I'm very lazy when it comes to world building, and so it's like a lot of like anything that's like me having to build NPC after NPC after NPC in a single location in functionally like a stack on top of one location or underneath one banner. That's painful to me because it's like, God, I could be covering so much more ground if I just spread these NPCs out. I dislike politics as a concept when it comes to like, you know, world building and things like that. And so I tend to stay away from, for example, like choosing if my given country is an oligarchy versus a matrocracy or whatever. I don't even know the terms very well. And so it's like that, but on a smaller scale is all a faction is. So I keep it down to like a sort of positive negative scale, basically exactly like this. So, and of course, like when it comes to things like that, again, no place like Homebrew is just gonna drop it. They have whole factions and guilds and stuff like that in here. I'm pretty sure there's one that's like, I'm willing to bet anything if I look in here long enough, there's just gonna be straight up like a Brewers Guild, like exactly what I was talking about. Oh yeah, there's like entire franchises in here. So, thankfully I don't have to do that as much anymore, which is quite nice. I have no qualms about just like ripping something straight out of a book and renaming it. So that's always nice. Cheese Prof says, I'm very lazy when it comes to world building, says a woman who has created several. I have created exactly 1.5. So, you know, how dare you? But hi, Average Gamer, how's it going? Let's see. Oh yeah, Rare Gamer says, I hated world building until I found World Anvil and could basically write down everything. That's how I feel with Obsidian. I have not used World Anvil personally. Obsidian is more my thing, but it took me so long to get into Obsidian because people kept explaining it in the worst way possible. I have a short form about this where they always show that really weird web thing that no one functionally uses. I have qualms with how people talk about Obsidian, but I love Obsidian. Let's see. Yan says, yeah, that's very fair. The minutia of politics and factions is the hardest part of world building for me. And I have a whole Google Doc of factions that's not even finished. Yeah, I feel you. It's like trying to reduce it to something like this that's just a simple scale makes it a little bit easier. And then also making sure that like, if anything, you can kind of, I don't know, only build out like maybe 3 or 4 important load-bearing NPCs per faction, and then just kind of like hand wave the rest, you know? Like how many of you guys, let's be realistic. You guys go into Skyrim, you get the little handprint note, you go talk to the brothers, the Dark Brotherhood. How many Dark Brotherhood names do you actually know? And how many times have you replayed Skyrim and then gone through the Dark Brotherhood questline? Right? I can think of maybe one person, and that's like the Jester dude who's like the speaker for the mother. And so it's like you don't have to necessarily build absolutely everyone if you don't want to. Someone says, what book is that? This is called No Place Like Homebrew. There's a link in my bio if you want 10% off. It's really simple, really quick. It's I think the code is Diana Homebrew, all caps, and it goes till the end of March. I don't make a commission off of it though. It's purely just like for funsies because they were really nice to you guys and sponsored the channel on like several fronts at once. So I appreciate that for them, and hopefully you guys can make use of it. Shrody, hi, and Crazy Dutchmans, welcome in. Thoja wants me to breathe after my rant about factions. I just hate factions, dude. I hate building them. I hate having to think of them and also having to think of ways to not make them all the same thing over and over again. So again, I'm not gonna keep gesturing to the book, but this is where I would be gesturing to the book every 20 seconds because genuinely that is one of the things that it helps with a lot. I'm also just a lazy world builder though. Let's see. Leopold says, weird and maybe even bad question, but do you have any body insecurities? Nah, dude, I got 2 surgeries. I'm set. Let's see. Oh yeah, Anubis says, World Anvil has saved my world building so much. I haven't really tried it, but Malik agrees on Obsidian. I saw someone ask about Obsidian over on, let's see, over on Instagram. It's not an app. Is Obsidian an app now? It might actually have an app form. I'm pretty sure at the very least they have cloud saves, so you could move between like all your different forms of wherever you have it. Obsidian is a desktop app. Okay, yeah, but it does have a cloud save service. So it's also really easy to move from computer to computer if you really want to. So it's simple. Cyro, hello. Also, hi Liz. I saw you briefly on TikTok. Let's see. Hi Solo. And then Simon, who says, true, in most campaigns, my players only deal with like 2 NPCs per faction on average. And that's really all you need. Is like 1 or 2 face NPCs, and then everyone else can kind of just be bustling around in the background. Or you can, fill it in as needed. Oh, Charlie Bear says Obsidian is in fact an app. I use it on iPhone. Hey, oh my god, that's amazing. Hell yeah, dude. Technology's great. And Lucas says, I just saved my Obsidian config on OneDrive. Yeah, so I usually toss it just onto like a backup flash drive. It's like every picture that I've ever taken in my life, and then all of my Obsidian files. And those are my 2 most precious bits of data that I have in like a fireproof safe in my apartment. Fort Hero says, how do you handle giving magic items in the sense of not breaking your game? Yeah, so I think 2024 does a little bit better of a job at that, but essentially you want to work within, first of all, if your magic items are breaking your game and you're giving them in the recommended amounts, right? Like you're not going crazy and giving them legendary items at level 3. And you're paying attention to like at what tiers of gameplay your party's at and then how many magic items they should have based on those tiers, then you should be fine. They shouldn't break anything. If anything, what you should be doing is balancing the encounters around the magic items and around your players' abilities. Not all of them. It's okay if they feel powerful every now and then and they absolutely wipe out a goblin encampment with a single well-placed fireball. Honestly, I think that's good for them. Let them blow off some steam every now and then. But the other thing is, like, you should also be making sure that if your party has a certain capability, you also have all the resources in the world to make the NPCs and the enemies of the world have those capabilities as well. Not necessarily the exact same things, you don't want to just give them a wand of fireballs every single time that you give your party a wand of fireballs, but you still want to make sure that you're adapting to their capabilities. Lino says, oh no, the poor little gobbos. Oh. Let's see. Oh yeah, Tyler says, I'm new to D&D. How do I find someone or someplace to play? There's a couple ways to do it. If you want to play in person, I really recommend checking out your friendly local game store and seeing, usually it's on like Facebook pages or on cork boards inside the game store. They'll have events every now and then that's like, hey, we're hosting a D&D one-shot for Christmas, come fight Krampus with us. Or, oh, we're doing a Halloween one-shot. Like, anyone is welcome to drop by. It's like $10. Just, swing in and we'll play Tuesday at 4 o'clock, And I recommend attending 1 or 2 of those, not just for the sake of being able to like get a feel for the local, how D&D works, but also because eventually, if you're, people you end up seeing a lot in the same game store end up playing with you quite a bit through little one-shots and random events and things like that. And you end up liking their attitudes, and you like the way they play, and you guys get along really well. Congrats, you've made friends, and you now have friends that you can play D&D with, because you already know you have something in common. So that's like the IRL way of doing it. I personally don't like playing IRL that much. I way prefer playing online, and so I tend to do the start playing method if I need to find folks. This stream isn't sponsored by Start Playing, but it's always my go-to, always has been, always will be. It's startplaying.games or startplaying.com. I think they both go to the same place, but you can find people to play with online and professional GMs who are actually like vetted and have reviews and things like that. And you can bring as many or as few friends as you want into the games. A lot of people also, if you're in high school and middle school and things like that, clubs and organizations that are dedicated to D&D, some schools do have D&D clubs, which is like the coolest thing ever, by the way. Oh my god, I wish my school had a D&D club when I was in high school. I would not be cool enough to join, but oh my god, it would be amazing. Which I know sounds counterintuitive, but trust me when I say it was very not cool. I was so uncool that even the uncool kids didn't want to hang out with me when I was in school. But yeah. Let's see, David, David says stop saying IRL instead of in real life. Nah, dude, this is the internet. Sharknado says, as a DM, you also have a lot of things that you can adjust, even mid-combat, if your party is just steamrolling everything. Often when I design an encounter, I'll have some additional monsters or creatures or people that I can add in if things are going well. Dude, yeah, not enough people do second waves of creatures or second phases of combat when it comes to like boss creatures in games. Anything that you see, someone says I say meat space for IRL. Yeah, right. The thing that I feel like people don't take enough of, oh my gosh, enough inspiration from is video games when it comes to how you run tabletop games and how you formulate encounters. Because the Dark Souls thing, for example, where you have, a second phase and you think you've killed the boss, but then all of a sudden its health bar refills and it like completely morphs into a whole new form, and then like you have to fight it again, but the strategy is entirely different. There is nothing stopping you from doing that in D&D or any tabletop game. Things like, for example, traps that are scattered around a room. That also counts as something that could make combat a little bit more challenging than just beating a sack of hit points to death. I really recommend that. Obstacles, or turning the environment into more of a three-dimensional type like platform. So for example, goblins. If we were running a goblin encounter in the middle of a forest, very Lost Mines of Phandelver style, you could make it so that the goblins have dug trenches around the area and are popping out and like, you know, making it really hard to fight them from a distance because of the cover. You could also make it so that they're up up in the trees and have like built platforms that are really hard to see from below because they're cloaked on the underside by like little blankets of leaves held up by nets. Anything like that, right? Blair Gray, hello. Same with Unfortunate Horse Girl, Handy, Bagel, hello. Shadow, Murwalk, hi. Angel, Cyro, not really. Good to see you guys. Hello, hello. Also, Strong Mist saying, I recommend the floor slowly turning into lava. This might be just a me thing. I don't have that thing where I refuse to have flying species in my games. And I know that a lot of DMs will make it so that they don't allow flying species for the sake of the fact that it ruins a lot of their traps and environmental hazards and things like that. I personally think it doesn't. And if it does, then the traps and environmental hazards should probably be adjusted accordingly. But I don't try and like, I don't know, constrict party member choices to that extent. I also allow silvery barbs though, so who's to say? But yeah. Okay. Let's see. On YouTube, how would you mechanically handle a Curse of Immortality character, like a character that can't die? So that is, I would kind of make it so that they're either reborn in a certain spot every single time that they die, or there's some other negative penalty. I feel like that's kind of a given, but like there are characters and species that are really hard to kill in D&D. I'm pretty sure Reborn, and also orcs. The fact that they can come back up from one hit point is really hard to kill them. One thing that I'd recommend is making it so that like their soul gets shunted into a new body, or they are forced to like completely restat, but they're still born with the same memories over and over again. Finding something that's still like an inconvenience, especially time-wise for them, could be really helpful, especially the fact that like, you know, if they're the only immortal ones in the party and then every single time that they die, it takes them, for example, 5 years to reform their body and get back to normal again. That's enough of a deterrent that they're not going to go jump into lava, you know? I really wouldn't allow like full immortality, but yeah, Cyrus over on Twitch says, I had one where every time I die, I lost memories. That one's pretty good. I would say like maybe having a skill, maybe penalty as a side effect as well, especially if you come back up immediately. Stuff like that tends to be helpful. Lino says people who find flying species to ruin their traps need to get more creative. That's kind of what I think, but I don't judge. A lot of people are working off of like predetermined modules and things like that. Let's see. Sarge says, hypothetically speaking, if you have 1 or 2 PCs that tend to roll low across the board, what's a great way to make it so where they don't get discouraged in game? Switch out their dice regularly. If it's genuinely like they are cursed type situation, maybe throw more situations of them that they're really good at. So take a look at their highest stats and try and make it so that those sorts of saves are a little bit more prevalent. Just turn the dial up slightly, but there's only so much you can do when someone's just like that unlucky, you know? Jack Moriarty says, hi everyone, greetings from Germany. Hello. And then let's see, Simon says, I used to be bad at making my enemies smart because I improvise so much. Yeah, I can't improvise at all. So what I used to do when it comes to enemy encounters is I used to go to the monsters know what they're doing. And this is hold on, the monsters know what they're doing. Keith, let's see, there we go. Keith Amon is the author. It's basically like a whole series of tactics that you could use in, this is specific to D&D, but you just look up a monster, right? So for example, a Medusa. it gives you all these realistic tactics that you would be able to use in combat. For example, the fact that a Medusa knows that she only has like a certain range on her stone sight means that she's gonna do certain things to lure you into that range before she attacks with her eyes and things like that. You know, like it takes into account the fact that petrification takes a little while and the chance to resist it is 14, right? Or the Constitution saving throw to resist it is 14. It's kind of essay style, but it's also so worth the time to read through and just kind of like slightly adjust your planned encounters before you go in, even to have it in the back of your mind. And if something goes horrifically wrong, you might spontaneously remember, even if you can't improvise on the spot, it might be helpful to have a little tidbit of knowledge come to mind to be like, hey, now that I think about it, I have a bow and arrow somewhere in my inventory, I'm pretty sure. Or like, oh my gosh, this monster like is really proficient with this weapon. Maybe she can go pick it up from somewhere. Maddie says, oh my god, the most beautiful, gorgeous, incredible creature I've ever seen. Hi, Maddie. While we're on the page and while we're looking at things, give another quick shout out here to Roll and Play Press, our sponsor for today, who is bringing us a brand new book, No Place Like Homebrew. If you guys use the code Diana Homebrew at checkout, you get 10% off of this. And also if you buy the actual physical book, you get a free PDF to come with. It's like a little sticker in the back that has a PDF code. It's really helpful. It's the book that I've been referring to, like, God, basically since I got it. I like sat down and read through it earlier today, but this actually gives you some proper page spreads. If you wanted to take a look, you can use !homebrew at any point in chat to get to this page specifically. And yeah, I cannot recommend this book enough. It's basically just chock full of things that you can drag and drop into any game, not just D&D. And it's stat blocks, it's locations, it's factions, it's planes of existence, it's NPCs, it's everything. It's shops, which is like, so much of it is shops, which I'm so happy about because I need so many goddamn shops for my worlds and I cannot be bothered to build all of them and also give them catchy names and also give them like proprietors and people who run them. I just can't do it. I've got limits. And also there's so many situations where I just haven't planned it ahead of time. Yvette says the sponsor's money is 100% going entirely to the cat. They deserve it, right? Yeah, actually, unironically, yes. It's being used to pay the pet rent. At least like 70% of it. 75% of it, I think? Maybe. Not the pet rent, the pet deposit, which cats are coming tomorrow, by the way, so there won't be a stream tomorrow. But it is, pretty much all sponsorship money from here on out is basically gonna go to the kids. But let's see. Someone asked on Instagram, how do you make character art for your characters? Very good question. I personally, we abhor AI and at the very least like generative AI around here. One thing that I recommend is, and this is like an old school method, I'm pretty sure it's called Pickproof, a character maker from like way back in the day where you can I agree. You basically like take little, oh my god, okay, do not show, little bits like icons and add them to a character to give like a really rough sort of like built design. The biggest thing that I do though is I commission artists. Toby.exe is my favorite character artist ever. He did Arathine, which I posted on Instagram forever ago. Actually, it was a little while ago. And whenever I can buy character art and I have it in my budget, I go straight to him when his commissions are open. Strange Nature says DeviantArt is also a good place to find real artists. You can find something that is your NPC. Tumblr I used to go on to quite a bit, but I don't do that for actual plays because it's using it without permission for something that's on a stream platform is a little dicey legally. So don't do that if you're gonna stream your game. If you can, go through an artist, or, you know, just don't stream it. Charlie says, Diana, who's either your favorite character or NPC you've decided to make or play? I actually kind of really loved the frog character that I built for the Saturday charity game, the Daggerheart game. Her name was Ragna. She was like a little frog character, a rivet was the species name. They like, I don't know. She was just really cute. She had like the most nasally little voice and she was just the bottom of a multi-level marketing scheme, canonically. So that was fun. Let's see. Dick over on YouTube says, I never realized that Diana slowed down her speech for her videos. I only slow down my speech because I'm not speaking off the dome in my videos. I mean, I am, but not 100%. Usually I slow it down for the sake of emphasizing a point because a lot of my videos are a lot more informative and educational in nature, and I'm trying to make sure that it's like more accessible to everyone. If anything, I feel like I still talk fast in those videos. Let's see. Oh, I thought I heard something burning. I thought I heard sizzling for a sec. Let's see. Camille says, I'm almost 2 years into a campaign playing a paladin. For the next campaign, I want to play a spellcaster because magic is dope, but I made quite literally the perfect character for the setting as a barbarian, and I'm worried if I play him, it'll be 3 years of barbarian and I might get bored. What to do? I would say go ahead and, or if you're enjoying the barbarian character, continue playing him. I would say him or her or them, just keep going until you get bored, and if you get bored, discuss it with your DM and talk about obviously the possibility of multiclassing is a thing, and that's usually the go-to, but it's never going to be quite as fun as starting over as a spellcaster, in my opinion. I don't usually multiclass. If anything, I would say that you can at any time, and this is my personal belief, at any time you can retire a character and just bring in a new character at the same level that the rest of the party's at. Granted, your mileage may vary. Your DM might be like, hey, I really want everyone to try and stick to their characters if you can, which is totally fine and very valid for the DM to want, especially given the nature of the campaign. If the campaign might be really like story heavy and it wouldn't make sense for a new character to be able to pop into the environment because it's like a demi-plane or something like that, then that makes sense to maybe not switch. But personally, in my games, if anyone ever gets bored of their character, they just have to talk to me about it, and I'll be like, okay, hey, don't tell anyone else, but let's kill off this character, and then you can bring in a new one spontaneously. And so I think that can be kind of fun. My end goal as a DM is to make sure that no one gets bored. And, if anything, right, like, they're always welcome to talk to me about it. So this is a conversation I recommend with your DM. Let's see. Someone asked, what is your go-to one-shot that you can recommend? My number one one-shot that I recommend for absolutely everyone, and I've talked about this in the past. I don't think I made a video about it yet, but it's called Wild Sheep Chase, and it's the one that I ran on Sachi's channel and Project Medusa a little while ago to help raise money for Blizz's cancer treatment, but it's available for free. It's on DM's Guild, and it's fully like a level 4 to 5 adventure that is really, really good for especially new players. Level 4 to 5 means that you will get your subclass right away, and you don't have to worry about starting at level 1 and then potentially getting your ass kicked when you take 8 points of damage in one hit. You don't have to worry about not having all of your full capabilities and being able to actually get a good feel for the class. And it has both roleplay and combat. You can do both of the encounters with talking or with violence, and there are like several endings. I'm not going to scroll all the way down because of all the endings, but I've modified it slightly only to give it like a little bit more meat, but beyond that, it's like my absolute favorite. 100% will recommend this every time. One shot, and it's free, so that's always nice. It's really easy on DMs too. They did a really good job. It's not very bare bones, so I really like that. That's my go-to one shot for sure. Let's see. Matthew says, I'm going to be DMing my first D&D campaign. Do you have any general advice for new DMs over on YouTube? Yes, read the module the entire way through first before you do anything. Before you sit down, before you do session 0, anything like that, just sit down as if it's like a nice fiction book. Go to like a coffee shop, get a nice matcha latte or whatever, and just read through it, because otherwise you're not gonna have the way that these, especially D&D modules, are laid out. It's very chronological, and you need to understand where each of the NPCs are coming from, and the only way you'll have a thorough understanding of that is if you read it through the entire way and not just like balls to the wall, jump straight into it and try and run it chapter by chapter, learning it chapter by chapter. You gotta read it through at least once. So that's my biggest piece of advice. Felix says, how profitable is it to be a D&D content creator nowadays? It has never been profitable, and the only reason that content creators are ever full-time is because they have a side hustle that they're usually not telling you about, or they're like selling some sort of class or something, which is also a type of side hustle. I have a day job, so if that helps you out at all. If I didn't do content as well, my day job would not pay for this apartment and the cats and things like that, so I do have to do both, if that helps. Content creation in itself, it's not easy, and it's also incredibly volatile, and I really recommend that almost no one go into it full-time until they're like you gotta meet a lot of criteria before you go full-time, and those are way beyond what I do. But yeah. Let's see. Charlie Bear says, I'll have to retire soon. It's late in the UK, but it was fun being able to join again, Diana. I love your videos, and thank you for all the tips. I hope the stream goes well. Thank you, and thanks for joining. We also have Grim Druid, who says, my goal as a DM, Grim Druid, welcome in for the first time, by the way, saying, my goal as a DM is to have a fun table for everyone. If you're not having fun, let's talk about why and see what we can do. If we have to make a new character, then okay. If we need to reclass or rebuild, also okay. Yeah, so this is also another thing that I have as a little bit of advice for people who are running games for new players. Gerald says, how the hell do you have time for a job with all the content you put out? My job is really cool. And I work remote, which helps a lot, but yeah, no, I work full-time. Most content creators work full-time. at a different job. It's just not at the top of our minds, and we don't usually talk about it. But I think I know for every like content creator that you see that is a full-time content creator, chances are they're doing freelance work or start playing or something else on the side. They're doing writing, they're doing editing, they're doing insane amounts of streams. It's more work than it's worth for most people. And for every one of those, there's like 70 of us that are also still have our day jobs and things like that. Let's see. Someone said the main benefit of remote work is more kitten time. Yeah, I'm excited. It's gonna be helpful. I'm gonna have to force myself out of the house more so that way they don't get like separation anxiety. Anyway, I was talking about my number one tip for GMs who are playing with new players, and I mean players who are new to D&D and who don't quite have a good grasp on what, like, you know, builds that they want to have, their subclass, their class, whatever. Maybe they're like a little bit anxious about trying out a spellcaster because the spellcasting rules can be a little bit annoying for a first timer. Maybe they're like, oh, I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence between these two classes. I have a personal rule at my table where before level 2, you can change, assuming we're starting at level 1 for the campaign, before level 2, you can change your class and subclass at any time, and we're just gonna like not acknowledge it. So if you start off as a druid and you're like, oh my god, in the 2024 rules, I have no idea how wild shape is supposed to work. I don't know how any of this works. Please help me. Can I just switch to being a barbarian? I'm really regretting my choice. Then congrats, you'll walk away from the campfire as a bear and then walk back like 10 minutes later in character with a whole like two-handed greatsword over one shoulder and fully decked out in fur armor. And you just take a seat at the fire and we'll just continue on like nothing happened, you know? Let's see. Brayden says there's a reason a lot of YouTubers are quitting. It's because you have to constantly be creating better and better content. That, and also too many content creators rely on their audience to never change. And that's just not reasonable. Your audience will age out of whatever you're watching, and also like the trends that happen will change. Like I talked about this briefly over on Threads not too long ago, and I won't talk about content too much because this is a tabletop advice stream, but this is kind of related. Someone says, have you ever heard of or played the Cosmere RPG? I haven't. I know Kevin was in here earlier and he's going to be running a Cosmere game here soon. I haven't personally done it because I don't know anything about Brandon Sanderson's stuff, unfortunately. I am not. When I read, it's like horror stuff, unfortunately, not so much fantasy. Let's see. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the thing about YouTube, especially long-form content, not only is it kind of shrinking with regards to like people's attention spans nowadays, which is not an exaggerated like change. In our lifetimes, genuinely the amount of time that you have to create a hook has shortened from like maybe 15 seconds to possibly like, 3 to 5 when you're doing short-form content. Maybe it used to be 30 seconds for a good hook back in the day, but nowadays it's more like 15 for long-form. Things have changed. You need not just to be entertaining the entire time, and you need to not just have no dead air, but you also need to have, which by the way, a lot of old YouTubers, they're okay with dead air, but their audience is less and less tolerant of it as we go on, if that makes sense. So you'll see a lot more content creators going into ensemble type work, where it's people talking to each other over a single player game for the sake of being able to constantly have something in people's ears. That, and also heavy amounts of editing. You'll notice that content creators nowadays have a lot more editing, and like you just have to do that. I made a tweet the other day, it was on everything except Twitter, talking about the fact that editors hopefully are getting their fucking bag right now, because so much of, from now onward, so much of content is going to be so reliant on them and their skills that like it's gonna be an interesting shift to see. And also it's a type of art. They've deserved it. Let's see. Luke says, without context, Baker's Guild versus Brewer's Guild. The winning guild can have a chat homebrew a name. Oh man, for something that you're homebrewing? Hell yeah. Yeah, we can do that poll. Felix says, have you played any sci-fi or horror TTRPGs like Mothership? I have run and played Dread. Highly recommend Dread, but it's something that you can only really do in person, and it's not very accessible physically. I really want to get into Mothership. I want to get the deluxe edition one of these days at a convention, but every time I'm at a convention and I see it, there's like 100 other things that I need to spend money on first, so it falls to the bottom of the list. But I do want to get it at some point. Let's see. Oh yeah, Rip says, do you have any tips for making player backstories feel cohesive and meld together in the world and story without making it feel like each player gets an arc and no one else gets story for now? Yeah, I mean, if you're a player, making it so that there's open-ended questions for the DM when you're writing your player character backstory is really helpful. I made a character this is the one I was talking about on YouTube the other day for members, who I made it so that she was part of a smuggler's guild, but she didn't know who else in the guild was aware that they were smuggling the whole time. She doesn't know if they're like their against their will and they're maybe smuggling for the sake of getting out of debt, for example, or if they're smuggling against their will because they're being held prisoner in a sense, or if they're totally into it and they're like really down, or if they're just filling out paperwork and they have no idea where everything's going and they're just like a cog in the machine and they have no idea that they're smuggling. And so I left it up to the DM, which then also makes it so that the DM can determine who we stole from, which could be another player character. So having the DM kind of weave other player characters' backstories into each other is really helpful. It helps a lot if you're part of a guild or some sort of organization, which everyone should have at least, you know, a couple connections at the very least, if not to a guild or organization. At least a handful of people in your backstory that maybe you have a connection in common, a mutual friend with someone else in the party, and you don't realize it until it happens to come up later on in the middle of the campaign, and you're like, oh my god, you know that wizard? I know that wizard. He's like my old mentor. And it's like, what? That old wizard killed my entire family. What are you talking about? Even better if it is like a source of misunderstanding. Delicious. But it's on the GM to weave all of those together and then not tell the party how they're woven together, but it's also on the party members to have open-ended questions that only the DM knows the answer to. So that way they can have surprises still happen to them in-game and you can keep them interested. It also helps to make sure that like the party members all have kind of the same end goal in the end. Not necessarily like the same singular goal, but to avoid having that issue where it's like, oh yeah, you had a character arc. Okay, now you got to sit back and then this person's gonna have a character arc. You know, having like everyone take turns isn't ideal. So if there's a way to formulate the plot points so that progressing one person's character backstory quest line also happens to bring person B a little bit closer to their quest line at the same time, and then person C realizes that they were following the same quest, but in reality, this all proved that it was a red herring. It's harder to do without like, without me knowing what the exact backstories are, so it's a lot easier said than done, but at the same time, this is where the GM really needs to be able to like weave those threads together, and where the party needs to be really good about creating backstories in a sense that like, which can be helped. It's kind of a skill that you learn. Good about creating backstories to allow that weaving to happen. Let's see. Yvette says, what's your dream character to play? I don't want to spoil it. There's things coming. There's things happening. There's stuff happening. It'll be good. Lucas says this chat likes biscuits more than beer. Are we... Okay, so for those who aren't in Twitch right now, we set up a poll to say which guild is better between the Baker's Guild and the Brewer's Guild. And the winners get to vote on a homebrew name for something. Speaking of homebrew, today's stream is sponsored by No Place Like Homebrew, a brand new book from Roll and Play Press, which is available for 10% off if you use the code DianaHomebrew at checkout by using the link rollandplaypress.com/Diana Homebrew, I believe it is as well. So it's like really easy to remember the code. It's in chat if you're watching on Twitch right now. Basically, the book is just chock full of homebrew ideas that you can drop into any campaign. Not just D&D, you could do Daggerheart. It's pretty system agnostic. You could do quite literally anything. It's a lot of fantasy stuff though, so I'd just be aware of that as a caveat. But as you can see, it's all color coordinated. So red, for example, is a potential bad guy. Pink is gonna be someone who's like an NPC. It says if they're a commoner or like a priest or an acolyte, what their backstory is. There's keywords scattered everywhere so you can tell what you're looking at a glance. You can have entire guilds, you can have entire planes of existence, entire cities, and it's, if nothing else, a really good way to just be able to reach over and drag and drop something into your campaign when there's someone asking about an NPC and you hadn't prepared for that. Or if you want to just flip through it and look at potential, you know, plot hooks. Every single location comes with like not just descriptions of how it looks, but also potential secrets. You know, a couple words about the inhabitants that are in there, the full description, so you don't have to come up with it yourself. It's an amazing book. I can't recommend it enough. I did a video on it earlier today, and that video was so genuine. Every video I've ever done for Roll and Play Parts is so genuine. Truly, 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 check it out. But yeah, that's a spiel for. A little bit of a spiel for you. Pork is good. Thank you so much for the community sub gifts to the community. I said community too many times. But thank you so much for making sure someone else doesn't have to sit through ads all the time. Let's see. The Brewers Guild. Oh, the Bakers Guild. Sorry, won the poll. Let's see. Lino says the bread maker shall rise in about 2 to 4 hours. God damn it. Spinal says, did you write this book? I did not. But oh my god, it's really nice. The people who write, basically, it's like this and One Shot Wonders, they do a really decent job of just making it kind of like accessible, for lack of a better term, right? So if we were to look at, for example, the section on, let's say communities, right? It's broken into biomes, first of all. So that way you're not dropping like a super dense forest biome into the middle of a desert by accident. It like tells you exactly what environment you're working in, so you don't fumble around looking for something that fits. If we were to look at, for example, an environment known as the Valley of Krakens, it's described as a dried up ocean floor. One quick sentence that tells you exactly what it is, and you can tell based off of that whether or not it's a good fit. It's known for layers of salt covering a parched landscape that once was submerged between a large ocean. Treasures and cargo from sea wreckages are littered throughout the area. Then it says the appearance. The appearance says the blinding I can read, I swear. The blinding salt flats crunch underfoot and hiss as the wind hits them. Fossilized coral and the bones of a dragon turtle lie scattered across the desert surface. Immediately, that paints a picture. It's all of your senses, you know? And that's like verbatim. That wasn't something I made up. I couldn't make that shit up. So that's verbatim. And then it also has a secret listed, which says, each night beneath the stars, the ghost of the great dragon turtle swims across the sky. Those with a connection to the spirit world could attempt to communicate with it. Beyond that, it's got like 4 quick words just describing it. Environment, large, safe, and wasteland. Other things say environment, large, risky, and wasteland, or dangerous. Other locations will say if like a person is friendly, if they're fey, if they're a merchant. It's like so quick and easy to like pick up, flip through, and then find something to drop into your campaign that's like, highly recommend checking it out. If you don't believe me, look at the page spreads on their website. Again, !homebrew will take you right there if you're on Twitch right now, so you can take a look at it for yourself. But I also show it off a little bit better in my video. I love it. Let's see. Oh. Vest says I heard Dragon Turtle and immediately thought of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I've actually never seen Avatar, I'm sorry. But wasn't the Dragon Turtle in that show more of a lion or something like that? It was more like akin to proper, what I'm assuming is proper like ancient Chinese lore, as opposed to just straight up a giant turtle with a big old dragon head like it is in D&D. I'm assuming. Also, someone wanted me to hydrate, so there we go. Oh, Triple Ace says, do you think it's okay for new DMs to make a little realm to cut back on specific places or map making, or do you advise against it? I actually really recommend it. Something that I recommend for new DMs, especially when you don't have the resources to be able to A, improvise or pull things out from things like No Place Like Homebrew, or other books and supplements like One Shot Wonders that will just straight up, like, in 2 seconds give you everything you need. I run a lot of campaigns in demiplanes, and I have functionally world borders for the sake of making sure that my party doesn't stray off the beaten path a little bit too much. That being said, it is also very okay to just tell your party, hey guys, hey, I don't have this area planned out yet. Like, you can walk as much as you want into the desert, but like, you're not gonna run into anything, and I'm gonna tell you that right now above the table. Because they don't wanna waste their time either. You know, if you don't have something planned and ready to go, that's okay. You can tell your party that, and you could be like, hey guys, I would really appreciate it if we turned around. You know, nothing's worse than an unprepared DM just trying to fumble their way through a session that they didn't prepare for, which is why I love books like this, right? Let's see. Cheese Prop says turtle decks were the best. I remember didn't they have a Magic the Gathering card? Welcome back to our, we can't get through a single stream without having a Magic the Gathering detour of some variety. Turtle duck. Yeah! I remember these guys. They were so cute. The little fella. So adorable. Cheese Prop says, did they? Yeah, they did! Yeah! It's a 0-4, but, you know, it's a turtle. What do you expect? Let's see. Yves says, how many kobolds could a kobold count if a kobold could count kobolds? 3. At best. Kobolds aren't that smart. Yan also says, my first campaign took place on an island off the coast of the mainland, and my PCs never saw the mainland. Yeah, that's the thing, right? It also kind of reduces choice paralysis for your players, which is a very real thing. You kind of have to walk a thin line between giving your players too many potential directions and not enough actual quest direction, if that makes sense. So like if they have an entire town's worth of places to go, you need to at least give them like 1 or 2 hints as to where they believe in-game that they should go. For example, maybe they saw a flyer for an event that's happening, you know, for example, a concert that's happening in a nearby tavern that is only, you know, 2 nights only, tonight and tomorrow night. And they know that if they want to go do that, they have tonight and tomorrow night to do it. That's some direction. You can't just drag and drop them into the middle of a town or the middle of a countryside and not give them some hint as to where to go. That gives them decision paralysis. So islands are really good for that. Yeah, demiplanes are really good for that. All that sort of stuff. Cash says, if there were turtle ducks, would you make them into a soup or roast them? Oh, you would obviously roast them and then use the shell as a bowl. I thought that was obvious. Does this have food? Dude, if this book has food, I'd be so happy. Oh my god. It does come with a, basically like a bunch of, like, world building worksheets as well. So if you wanted to world build on your own, it does help you with that. It's not 100% just like, oh, you take all this and drag and drop it. It gives you the tools you need to do stuff on your own if you'd like, as well as some campaign primers for things like horror campaigns, Feywild campaigns, things like that. Does it have food? It does not have food. Shit. It would have been like the perfect, I was so prepared to be so pleasantly surprised. It does have a lot of like restaurants and things like that though. One thing that I mentioned when I was talking about it in my video earlier was that they have a chocolate factory or a chocolate shop that's made entirely out of chocolate. I don't know what page it's on. I kind of want to go back to it and look at it. But they have things like that. I mentioned a concert earlier. They have, for example, performers that could just be performing at that concert. It's really cool, you guys. It's a really good book, I swear. Let's see. Oh yeah, Dick over on YouTube says it's a lion turtle and you have so much to look forward to with that show. It's a masterclass in the fundamentals of storytelling. I should look into it, especially because like, don't they actually go through and make it so that like such and such, was it Ozai or something like that? Or like the Fire Nation isn't all bad? Doesn't it the owl dude come up and be like, yeah, Aang, I know that you hate these guys, but they think that they're doing the right thing, you know? And so it does like have a measured approach to the concept of good and evil, which I always appreciate in world building. I hate it when something is just evil for the sake of being evil because it's unrealistic, you know? Let's see. Sleipnir says, clearly a soup lion turtle would require a nice vessel, potentially a bread baked by your local baker's guild. Jesus. Also, hi, Archangel. Thank you so much for the sub, and thank you for the follow. We also have Cross, who is here. Hello, hello. Cheese Prop says, a measured response is all Avatar, and it's wonderful. I do know how Avatar ends, and I will say that is kind of that's a little bit of, it's a little bit of a Deus Ex Machina. You know, it's a little bit much. I feel like Akoda says the journey is amazing. I'm sure it is. I just know that the ending is like, come, really? You just suddenly have this new magic power that you never mentioned before to anyone, and we're just gonna let this guy, are you kidding? He's a terrorist. Come on. Phoenix says, I also need to watch Avatar from a fantasy writer perspective. I also recommend, dude, if you guys ever want fantasy inspiration, like outside of existing TTRPG source books and things like that, I really, really, really recommend reading fantasy books or horror novels or just books in general, because they do a really good job of expressing environments and speech and mannerisms and like things like that to you in a way that isn't inherently based off of graphics and sound, because they can't. It's a book, right? And chances are it's not a picture book. And you need to be able to do that accurately as a DM and as a GM. So it's something that I really recommend. It helps you describe things way better, you know? On TikTok, someone says the Metro series isn't bad. Oh, the video games? I actually haven't played them, but I heard that I remember hearing something about it. I really want to get into the Fallout series at some point and get into the lore on that. Phoenix says descriptive writing is imperative for game running. Yeah, and like I mentioned before, I can't improvise at all, but it's at least a little bit easier knowing that when I'm describing a player, an NPC, I should describe, you know, how I should describe their clothing and how I should reveal things, you know, about their voice and how I can describe their voice as being really creaky, for example, as opposed to actually forcing my own vocal cords to be creaky. It's stuff like that books teach you how to do in a way that's like almost passive, right? Oh, the Metro series of books. Got it. I've never heard. Is it actually the same as the games? Let's see. Dreadscope says I'm making a one-shot based on RuneScape. That'd be fun. And then Curly, thank you so much for the sub with Prime. It's great to see ya. Welcome in. Hello, hello. Let's see. Kearney over on YouTube says Magic the Gathering plus D&D is delicious. It's chocolate and peanut butter. Yeah, did anyone get a hold of the secret layers that just dropped? Has anyone looked at that? Yvette says, if you're looking for a fantasy grimdark that's amazing, the Way of Shadows series by Brent Weeks is the best. 10 out of 10. Read it immediately. And then also Sam says, for what it's worth, I didn't watch Avatar until I was a grown-ass adult, and I would 100% recommend it. That's always good to hear. I heard the second series isn't as good, though. I'm not 100% sure. Let's see. Akoto says the Spellmonger series by Terry Mancour is another great fantasy series. Oh. And then Yan says, I've played Fallout 1 recently and Fallout New Vegas a while ago, and they were some pretty good games. Gotcha. Hell yeah. Oh, Yvette says they got delayed in North America by WotC. Did they really? Oh, I didn't hear that. Damn it. Also, Thomas, hello, saying, what's a good way to write fantasy humor without it devolving into memes and overplayed references? It depends on the campaign. If anything, writing fantasy humor is not necessarily something that you have to do as a DM. It's more like something that the party will inject on their own. Kind of like, you know, maybe you have like a character that's almost entirely too serious, right? The party's gonna step in, and if they feel like it's a good moment for it to kind of be brought back down into comedy a little bit, they'll start making fun of the guy behind his back on their own. Kind of writing humor is inherently really hard, but also if you do it as the DM and impress it upon the players as the world builder and as the dungeon master, it's gonna feel a little bit cheesy no matter what. So I always recommend just like kind of doing little setups. Yeah, situational or deadpan, says Akoto, always works. Deadpan is honestly probably my favorite way of doing it. Again, because I don't want to have it feel forced, especially like because I've been in campaigns where, and this is my least favorite thing in the world, where it's entirely too goofy. The second campaign I ever played as a kid, I couldn't get into it because the GM had made it so that the big bad guys were just Team Rocket, but reflavored. Like fully team, not even reflavored actually. It was like Team Rocket, but spelled like the Rockettes in the Macy's Day Parade. And I couldn't get into it because I was like, am I supposed to be serious or not? So I guess that's not much of a piece of advice. But that's like my perspective on it, I suppose. Having shops and things like that are a little bit more tongue-in-cheek, because in Worlds, the proprietor of that shop is really, like, just absolutely loves puns. That's different, right? So, yeah. Yvette says it's either Lord of the Rings or Monty Python, and there's no in between. And Phoenix says, one of my favorite series of all time is the Otherland series by Tad Williams. Sci-fi and dystopian Earth future. Also future Earth, rather. Oh, cool. Yeah, dystopian stuff is a lot of fun, and I feel like there's not enough dystopian stuff to go around, if that makes sense. I've read The Road. Fantastic. Great. Awesome. A lot of monologuing, but it pays off in the end. Yeah, good dystopian books are hard to come by. Akoto says, I missed 5 attacks in a row, and in the past, I missed 5 attacks in a row, and I said, I'm just gonna use my action to lay down. The DM blinked, and then went, yep, Barbarian, you're up. Yeah, exactly, moments like that, which are like natural. Also, hi Bruce Banana, thanks for the sub. Good to see you. Grim Druid, let's see, Agent Orange Call of Cthulhu has been my big DM calling lately. That is a completely foreign series of words to me. But I'm not a big fan of Call of Cthulhu also. But that's because I inherently I really don't like Lovecraftian horror. Anything that's got to do with, oh my gosh, this is just unfathomable and you won't understand it, and not understanding it, ooh, that's the scary part. That doesn't get me. That's not scary to me. I prefer things that are more fathomable as being reasonable almost, like human horrors is how I describe it quite a bit. Ethan, welcome in. Thanks for the follow. Let's see, Zach says, what's one of your favorite horror-themed but funny random encounters to throw at your parties? Ooh, I don't know if I know anything horror-themed but funny. If anything, one of my favorites that has the capacity to be that way is accidental cannibalism, with the party members stumbling into an area, especially a post-apocalyptic area, that has a lot of resource drain or resource constraints, and so it drives locals to cannibalism. And it's horrifying, and it's realistic. But the funny part is when the party finds out what's happening, and then their reactions can vary. Sometimes they like force themselves into vomiting. Sometimes they'll just like start running around screaming at people. Sometimes they'll just like calmly carry on and be like, what, you guys haven't eaten human before? So that sort of stuff. Accidental cannibalism as in, if you think about The Walking Dead video game season 2 or 3, I think it is, where they come across this farm and they're like, oh my God, you guys have real pot roast? And then the people who run the farm are like, yeah. And no one asks any questions. Yvette says, also, if anyone in a famine offers you fresh meat, it's people. It's always people. Yeah, it's like, oh my God, it's like the reveal in Snowpiercer. Good. Also kind of funny in like a very grim sense. The fact that they just kind of kept eating it, and the Chris, what's his fuck? the main guy was like, do not tell anyone about this. And then he just like stopped eating himself, you know? Thomas says, think of the prions. Prions are a problem. That's true. Oh my gosh, also hi, Ice Cream over on YouTube saying, just dropping in for a sec to say hi. I love your content, and it's great to finally catch a stream, even if I have to go already. Oh, well, thanks for dropping by. Thanks for saying hello. Rue also says the Magician's book and sci-fi show are amazing for inspiration as well. I really liked I watched a little bit of the Magicians, but I didn't get too far into it, primarily because I think I just ran out of time. But one of the things that I loved was the magic system that they had, where the magicians have to do all those complex hand tricks and everything like that, right? But they also have to pay attention to things like the environmental conditions, the humidity in the room that they're in, the phase of the moon, all that sort of stuff, you know? And so where they are locationally on the planet Earth, that affects the hand motions that they're gonna do, and they have to compensate for that. So it's almost like a math equation. And I love that sort of world building when it comes to magic, where it makes sense and it's traceable to something. Cyrus says, in the Snowpiercer books, it had people, not just bugs like the movie. It was more than people. It was excrement in the books. I really recommend you guys read the books. I've been on a please read the books binge recently. The Sandcastles book, the graphic novel, so much better than M. Night Shyamalan's Old adaptation, the movie Old. Chris Evans, that was the Chris. There we go. Coda says The Magicians, another great one on so many things. I really need to read the book, but I need to... Oh, Cheese Bro says, what's Sandcastle? Do you guys remember... Hold on. Old. So this film, recognize the cover? It's based on Sandcastle, which is like an older graphic novel that was originally in French, but you can find it in libraries translated to English. And it's a lot of the same thing without the twist at the end, but it's got more complexity to it in the story, I would say. I just think it's a really good graphic novel. And I think it's better than the execution of the movie. The movie just kind of gave frustrating vibes, you know? Loudest car ever outside. Let's see. Jesus. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Grim Druid says, a really interesting, fun horror book is I Am Legend. The twist is amazing. Yeah, I Am Legend is so much better. I just did this rant on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, so I'm not gonna do it again here, but if you guys like I Am Legend and you like the concept of apocalyptic stuff, please read the book. You can watch the movie, but just know it's totally different. It's a totally different story. It's like World War Z and World War Z, except not as bad, but still, the book is a lot better. And it's a little bit shorter too, I would say, content-wise. Ryder says the movie was so bad. Yeah. Science says, is there any place to watch you play TTRPGs? At the moment, my current long-running campaign is wrapping up. It's on Sundays at, here on Twitch actually, at about 2:30 Pacific time over on Madaloon's channel. She was here earlier, Madaloon, Maddloon. And she's our GM, but that campaign's wrapping. I'm doing another actual play here soon, which is gonna be podcast style, and then I've got a couple home games, but I'll let you guys know about the podcast when it comes out. We're still kind of filming a backlog, so I don't have any dates yet, but I will let you guys know. Not on Twitch though. I don't usually if I have like one-shots and things like that, I'll post about it on Instagram, and I'll let you guys know over on the Discord, which, by the way, feel free to join the Discord. I don't do annoying levels of pings, and we have an active giveaway happening right now as well, so be sure to check that out. It's also where you can opt in to be pinged whenever I'm doing like little one-shots for charity and random little events on other people's channels, all that sort of stuff. Yves says, are you excited for the Dropout / the Rookie crossover? I don't watch Dropout content. I just don't have the time to watch a lot of content, and Dropout is not something that I want to pay another subscription for or anything like that. I appreciate that it's funny. And I've played with a lot of people who are on Dropout. It's a very small world. And so I'm friends with quite a few of those folks, but I don't have time to watch. I don't consume my friends' content. I'm a bad friend in that sense, but it's also like I'm often too busy working or creating my own content to consume other content, unfortunately. Same with actual plays. I had someone ask earlier, hey, what's your favorite actual play to watch that's not one of the big ones? And the truth is, I don't even watch the big ones nowadays, to be honest. I don't have the time, unfortunately. But let's see. Endgame says, I'm trying a new way of DMing. Well, more like world building. I'm having a loose idea of the world, then getting all the PCs integrated into the world, then building a story that pulls them all together, and then going from there. I appreciate that. That's really cool. And also, like, that gives your PCs a lot better of an experience as well, because so much of the reason that existing campaigns and existing worlds and, like, modules that you have, bought and just kind of drag and drop into a campaign. The problem with those is that there's very little player investment because the players don't know what's going on. They're new to the world. Their player characters are usually new to the world as well in some sense, and they don't have they don't have a stake in it, And so having the player characters build out some sort of part of the world. It could be a faction, it could be an entire continent, it could be an entire town, anything like that, right? It's actually really simple too, because you can go up to them and be like, hey, player A, I saw that you were part of this Assassin's Guild growing up and you ran away from them at a young age. How old are you? What was the Assassin's Guild? What made you finally run away? What were their customs like? Slowly pulling more details out of them, integrating it into the world, and then basically make your players do your world building for you by asking them questions, Yves says end it by them meeting at a tavern, right? It also helps to do kind of little, not session zeros, but session 0.5s with either individual players or groups of 1 or maybe 2 or 3 players at a time, depending on how big your party is, and this is something I recommend everyone does, especially going into an actual play, is making sure that Critical Role did this, by the way. This isn't something that I just came up with. Having a mini show, a mini quest, a mini adventure before the actual campaign starts and before everyone meets in a tavern and meets as one big group, giving them a chance to get a feel for their character, set foot in the world, get their feet wet a little bit in the world that you've built. That goes such a long way in making sure that everyone's not having just a cold start to the campaign. Curly, also there's a hydrate. I'm gonna drink Dr. Pepper for this hydrate. Not today's sponsor, by the way. Today's sponsor, if you missed it from before, is Roleplay Press for No Place Like Homebrew. Book full of homebrewed concepts that you can just drop into your campaigns. Fully easy to read. It gives you the descriptions, it gives you the layout, it gives you the size of every individual store, it gives you the proprietor of the stores, it gives you secrets that might be lying underneath. If your party decides to loot a random tavern in the middle of nowhere, it gives you loot. Fantastic book and today's sponsor, and you can get 10% off today if you use code DianaHomebrew at checkout. Someone says it's not hydrate. Fine. The water police over here. Let's see. Oh, Curly says, how would I go about trying to add in a module to a campaign? I've essentially been running a string of one-shot wonders. Nice! Oh my god, amazing. Perfect timing. Oh my god. As their campaign weaving into their backstories. I was thrust into the DM position and the modules looked a little overwhelming. If you've run one-shot wonders before, or really any one-shots before, congrats. You're qualified. The only thing that would be different is the fact that, first of all, a lot of one-shots end up being multiple, episodes anyway, multiple, sessions anyway. I'm sure you've run into that. So really, a campaign is just the extended version of that. But as far as, actually physically working a campaign into a series of one-shots, make sure that the end goal of the campaign has the same relative trajectory as the end goals of the one-shots. So if you have a bunch of discombobulated one-shots, but they all happen to have some unifying thread, for example, they all have to do with animal threats to animals across the land, then maybe the campaign you want to choose to move into is a larger version of that, where more and more animals are going extinct, for example. The other thing you can do is you can take a look at published modules. I always recommend not homebrewing an entire module yourself. You can if you want to, but that's a lot of work. And taking a look at where they start and end as far as the levels go. If you go into a friendly local game store, every single D&D module, if we're talking about D&D here, is at the very beginning, it'll say, this is an adventure for 4 to 5 players that are levels 10, that start at level 10, and then it takes them through level 15. Something like that, where it says where it starts and where it ends. And you're gonna wanna find a campaign that not only fits the relative themes and general themes of what you've been doing so far, fits the general theme of what your party members enjoy in a campaign and what you've seen them enjoy the most out of the one-shots that you played so far. If they really like horror or they really like mysteries, choose based off of that genre. And then also starts at a level that they're headed towards already. Then you might just have to do 1 or 2 one-shots to bridge the gap to finally get them to level 10 or whatever, and then you can just pick up from there. Definitely hold on to one-shot wonders though, and keep it as kind of side quests in the background, because I guarantee they're still gonna love the constant progression feel of one-shots, of having accomplished something in a shorter amount of time, as opposed to a whole ass module, because it's a little bit difficult to go from doing one-shot after one-shot after one-shot to doing a whole campaign where you don't get that instant gratification at the end of a session. So keep a hold of one-shot wonders. I have that as a supplement to every campaign that I run. Whenever the party goes off the beaten track a little bit, or whenever they start to get a little bit bored or lose steam, I throw in a one-shot from one-shot wonders in there. to give them like one little, almost like a beach episode, but they're still getting something done, you know? I give them a little bit of something like that. So hopefully that helps. Basically, don't give them too much whiplash, but also if you talk to them above the table and be like, hey guys, you guys wanted to start a campaign, how does this sound? You know, throw a mood board at them, see if they approve, then above the table, they'll be fine. I promise you it's gonna go a lot better than you think, and if you've run one-shot wonders, especially strings of them before, you are more than qualified to do a module. Just make sure you read the whole module before running it. That's all I can say. Let's see. Beth Resin says, I made an HP Lovecraft D&D campaign based on the main 5 ancient ones. I created monsters, motivations, characters for my friends, and gear based on the 1920s. It took hundreds of hours. Oh man, yeah. So that is, it's a lot. And also converting things like firearms and things like that to D&D. It's not the hardest thing in the world, but making it, I think they only provide like maybe 2 or 3 stat blocks or an item blocks for firearms. So trying to make it so there's variants of that, a little bit iffy. I don't often recommend people fully homebrew entire campaigns and settings and things like that. Usually I recommend that people will like sprinkle in things from, for example, No Place Like Homebrew into an existing setting to make it feel homebrew. Because it's a lot of work to do like fully built from the ground up homebrew. Luke says, I scrolled down 2 posts on Instagram and got a roll and play ad for One Shot Wonders. I blame this channel for successful targeted advertising. Hell yeah. I love One Shot Wonders so much, dude. I cannot express enough that the first time I talked about that book, it was not an ad because I got it sent to me for free because they were like, hey, we think you'd like this. And then I opened it and I was like, oh my God, more people need to know about this. And so I just posted about it. And then from then on, they were like, wait, can we sponsor your channel? That was really nice. And so they're wonderful people through and through, truly. And everything they make is chef's kiss. Every single one is a banger. So Nostra says, my pickup arrived today. God bless the Instagram ads, it really works. I've always been so curious about how that actually works because it really does look like magic the way that they do it. Kearney, rather, over on YouTube says, I do collaborative world building as well. As you say, it locks them in. Right, yeah, because and this is the thing, all of the campaigns that I played in as a player, the times that I get the most disillusioned with the campaign, the times I become like, oh my God, I have to go to D&D again, are times when I either just like don't have a stake in the story. Usually I don't know, made a side character intentionally because, for example, my game that's at 2 in the morning, if I wanted to not make a side character, I don't think I could physically play them at 2 in the morning. Or because there's just straight up no reason for me to care about the story in game, you know? There's no, like, which granted is also a decent part of player character building, is you need to make sure that you have motivations that the player, the DM can grab onto and weave into the game. But like, I don't know. You need investment or else your party is going to dissolve faster than normal. Let's see. Starry says, I've been slowly building a magic-based TTRPG system from the ground up. I've done it once before, but it was based on an existing series, so this is my first time at doing solo world building completely on its own. Any suggestions for this? Oh, I'm afraid that's like one of the few things I can't really help with, is I'm canonically bad at creating entire systems, especially balanced systems. To be honest, because I usually just end up going back into like, oh, this is just the base system, but in a different flavor or in a different font. So I'm not sure I could help with that. I would recommend looking into, oh God, what's that one game that has like a really good element-based magic system? Is it Ars Magica? Maybe Ars Magica. I think that's it. Commander Wolf says, I don't know if she's reading this chat. I am. Hi, Wolf. And then Patrick has any, over on YouTube rather, says, any suggestions on a Dark Fae module that has room for some homebrew monsters? I have a ton of homebrew villains, but I'm not sure how to make a story with them all. Ooh, I haven't played it personally, but I've been looking at the Nightfell series because it's like Dark Fae stuff, not in the fact that it takes place in the Shadowfell or the Feywilds, but more, and it doesn't have like the whole court system or anything like that. Instead, it takes place in a world that is entirely overshadowed by night. So it's perpetually dark outside. There's a lot of magic tied into the phases of the moon. And there's a lot of like old folklore type creatures. So like witches and wizards and dark zombies, but like that are sentient kind of, and werewolves and things like that, that I feel like could do really well for a Fae style insertion. But yeah, as far as like the actual campaign campaign itself goes, I think Nightfell Children of the Moon is the name of it. It runs from 1 to 20, I'm pretty sure. It might be 10 to 20, actually. I think it might be 1 to 20 or 10 to 20. Monkey Saint says this might be a dumb question, but for a hopefully to be first-time DM, is One Shot Wonders a good place to start? If it's your first time, like first time ever, I would recommend Wild Sheep Chase first. And if you like that, then One Shot Wonders. And if you like One Shot Wonders, then a full module. Only because that's like increasing amounts of like cost for something that you need to know if you like it first before you spend time being a GM. I'm not gonna lie to you and say like, oh yeah, do One Shot Wonders right off the bat, because I do think you need to try at least like the concept of a one shot before you buy a whole book up based off of it. But once you do a one shot and once you get comfortable as a GM, and by get comfortable I mean do it once at least, then One Shot Wonders is a really good thing to have on your shelf just in general. As a GM, I really think everyone should have it. Let's see. Okay, I think that's actually, oh my god, yeah, we're out of time. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Oh my gosh, thank you guys for being here. I do want to have another one of these here soon. I usually do it on Mondays, but I don't know, I've been playing games. You guys have gotten me into so many games recently, like Quarantine Zone and things like that. So we'll be back on Monday playing Quarantine Zone. On Thursday, we're not gonna have a stream tomorrow on Wednesday because I gotta drive out and get the cats and then come back. But maybe they'll be featured on the stream on Wednesday. Sorry, on Thursday. No stream Wednesday because I'm getting cats. Thursday on YouTube, if you're watching, you might be able to see the cats depending on how rambunctious they are. And then on Monday, we'll be back again talking more about tabletop games, playing some more Quarantine Zone and the like. One extra big shout out to Roll and Play Press once again for sponsoring the stream today with No Place Like Homebrew. If you haven't checked it out already, it's a wonderful book. It's really, really helpful, and it's kind of one of those things that's like, it's gonna save your life while you're playing D&D or any other TTRPG, and you just need to grab something to throw into a world and make it feel really lived in without you having to improvise a bunch of stuff like descriptions and inventory and all that sort of stuff right off the bat. So I really recommend it. Again, if you use code Diana Homebrew at checkout, you get 10% off. And if you buy the actual physical book like this, it comes with a code for the PDF in the back. So if you're like one of those people who wants the PDF, you can also buy the PDF separately. That's also an option, but I just like having the physical one to flip through, especially on stream and things like that. So fantastic homebrew supplement. Also check out One Shot Wonders because we talked about it a bunch, and in general, just check out anything that Roll and Play Press does. They're a wonderful friend of the channel, such a great team, such friendly people. So thank you guys again for sponsoring us once more. I'm gonna say goodbye to those on TikTok and Instagram. I hope to see you guys over on Twitch next time because it's a little bit easier for me to read chat. So that's just a me thing. And if you join Twitch, then you can join in on the games next week when we play Quarantine Zone by making your own NPC. So that'll be at 5 o'clock on Monday. For those who are watching on Twitch and YouTube, congrats. You can join me on YouTube on Thursday at 5 o'clock Pacific time for our next stream, which is just going to be a little one-on-one chat for the YouTube folks over on mobile. That'll be on Thursday. And then for right now, let's see. Ooh, I don't know why I accidentally created a clip. I did not mean to do that. That wasn't intentional. Here's what we can do. Is I can send you guys over to... Ooh, should we raid into... Oh, who's on? Oh my god! Concho's playing more Poppy Playtime. So we could go raid into Concho. Or we could go play Reanimal with Oddity, because she literally just started. Oh, there was a guide to raid? Wait, where? Oh, it didn't show up. Hold on. Let's see. Activity feed. Tifachu for the win for Overwatch, or Lindy for Resident Evil 4. Oh man, okay. I feel like horror is a good one. Why don't we go raid into Lindy for some Resident Evil 4? Oh man, okay, cool. Well, I will send you guys over that way. But thank you so much for the raid guide. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I could continue saying thank you. I really just have to kill like the next 7 seconds of time before the raid actually kicks off. So I need an elevator music button. Girl from Ipanema, just on demand. Except for the fact that it would get me copyright struck. All right, we're all good. Say hello to the channel that we're raiding into. Say thank you to Roll and Play Press one last time, and I'll see you guys on Thursday. Bye-bye.